Very quick check-in from me because I'm running slightly late. But today's video is a special one because I have been invited to perform poetry in Parliament. This performance is specially for a Black History Month reception, which is being hosted by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association UK. So quite a I suppose close to my heart event, and I prepared two pieces which I feel will be very fitting for the occasion. So yeah, let's see how it goes. I'm going to make my way on the train now. Held within the historic Palace of Westminster or the Houses of Parliament, the CPA UK Black History Month event was a mixture of a historic exhibition and also the display of some Commonwealth-related gifts and artefacts. The event also had a mixture of notable speakers, and I was extremely honoured to be asked to perform poetry. So I am going to introduce you to the wonderful Jo, who's responsible for tonight's amazing and incredible event. There's so much I could say about Jo, my fellow queen.
Oh my gosh,
beauty.
Yes, hi, welcome to our actual first
yeah.
Black History Month event.
Yeah.
We are celebrating relationships between Africa and the Caribbean and the UK. We're going to have loads of cool people here actually.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But of course Shay's going to be blessing the mic. Most important.
With some poetry.
Exactly.
So Jo, congratulations.
Thank you, baby girl.
And hopefully today goes really well.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is one of our colleagues. Her name is Shay, and she writes lots of different poems and is going to share a couple of poems that she has written with us today.
Thank you. So I am Shay, and I'll be sharing two poems this evening in honour of Black History Month. You might want to take a deep breath before I head into my first poem, just because it's a poem that looks backwards to history and to the past. The invitation to read poetry this evening is very timely because I've just returned from 3 weeks in Ghana. And I had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to visit Elmina Castle. So for anyone who's not familiar with Elmina, the castle is one of the oldest and was one of the largest, how do I say this, buildings that housed slaves before they set off on their journey across the world. Elmina houses the very famous Door of No Return, which I had the very emotional opportunity to kind of walk through and stick my head out. So this poem is about Elmina and looking at the past. So here goes.
You approach the castle on the top of a hill. It sits majestically flanked by palm trees and washed with ocean breeze, painted all in white, sitting majestically on a hill. It's beautiful. And yet its walls contain hundreds and hundreds of years of torment, pain, and death. It doesn't hit you immediately after paying your fee to enter. Oh no, the beauty of the building is still at the forefront of your mind, and then the tour guide begins to talk. And there's no time to adjust your heart. There's no time to adjust your heart because the tour guide is talking, and suddenly the horror of the building, the sheer horror of the building, of what took place in this building is right before you, ringing in your ears how people who look just like you were captured or bribed and then dragged in chains, walking for miles, some dying on the way to get to this building. Just pause. Could you imagine their confusion? And so they arrived at this building to be brutalized and broken, some dying in the process, the walls of Elmina. I wonder what they have seen. As we walked around the dungeons and the upper levels, you can still smell the blood, the aching and the wailing. You can still smell the blood, and all of it took place inside such an outwardly beautiful building. What would the walls of Elmina tell us today? Maybe, just maybe, that behind all of our own beauty, our jobs and cars and achievements, that we too should look inside and check, deeply check whether our inside holds horrors of prejudice or hatred for others, or twisted discrimination, or pride in our shade, our language, or dangerously ignorance. What would the walls of Elmina tell us all today?
So you can see why I told you to take a deep breath. So yeah, that poem is quite emotional. I had to hold myself as I was performing, but I just take a little break before the second poem, just in case there are any thoughts as you listen to the poem as one that looked to the past. Yeah, don't be shy. No? Should I pick on Joe, our host?
No, I think it's really important to really remember, because with remembering, that's how you move forward and you know what to do. You know how to make a stand, you know how to really kind of show what your boundary is and what respect is needed. But it was really deep. Yeah. I think I've been there before as well, and the environment is tense. Yeah. And I've never been in a place where where it's empty,
and you can feel.
You can hear the echoes, you can hear a pin drop, but the weight of its history, you can feel it. Yeah. So I think you've definitely delivered that in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Any other thoughts, or I will go on to the second poem, which is forward-looking. So the walls of Elmina was looking to the past, but this poem is looking forwards. And it's entitled A World Like This, and I will call on the wonderful Jane to hold the mic again. Thank you. So this poem is called A World Like This.
Can we imagine a world like this, where there is an unspoken ease and not a jot of worry about whether the shade upon our outer layer will have no heavy weight or negative bearing upon one's roots in life or reactions from others? A world like this, where the shape of one's eyes or the native tongue spoken or the texture of one's head crown called hair are no hindrances to the doors which open or the hands which embrace you. A world like this, where the complexity of one's name, even in its abbreviated form, would not be introduced with dread or fear of the listener's squirm. A world like this, where the same room, the same corridors, the same seats and the same tables of grandeur, of policy, law and governance are taken up by kindred of contrast in physical, cultural and socio-economic streaks. For indeed we are all kindred. A world like this, where I, and let me say it slowly, Oluwa Seyi, Ayo Olua, Crystal Afolabi, would be wholly and unshakably confident that if or when I bring other lives into this world, they too would be able to fly. and explore their world without the fetters of bias or stereotypes, simply because of their shade of human. Could it be that a world like this is so much closer than I think? So much closer than I think.
So yeah, a much lighter poem to leave us with. Yeah, I mean, looking at this room this evening, maybe it is closer than we all think. So I will hand back to Jo. Are there any thoughts on the final poem?
That's fantastic. I think the second one was heavy as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah. Because what you're imagining is something which we shouldn't have to imagine. So there's still a lot of work to be done. We can do it, but it's still heavy. It's good. It's both of them. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there we go, I'm back home now. So happy. After doing this a few times now, I'm learning that there's such a sense of relief after you've performed the poems. Well, after I've performed. So really feeling that sense of relief now. I really enjoyed performing these two poems this evening, just because of their nature, and they're quite emotional and quite deep poems. So really enjoyed performing, and always really happy to speak to people after the performances and see how the poems touch them. So yeah, really happy with this evening. So that's another Poetry with Shay. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video.